So this is a position I won't find myself in, but if the Maplewood development were to be my ideal fairy book story again, like I said previously, what would that be? Well, my ideal vision for this property is to determine what is the highest and best use, what will keep the property values at the bare minimum the same, and with expectations or hope that they'll become higher, and also not increase the tax burden of those around us. There's a lot of things that many residents have said that I really like on paper, but how do they translate necessarily to the day-to-day operations of our village? I would really like to see, I have young children. They didn't play at the baseball fields in Maplewood. There's a lot of people I've met and talked to that have a very nostalgia, whether it be themselves or their children who are now 25 or 30. They look back in those memories very fondly. And I can't think one. I like to look at both sides of things, for better and worse. My wife does not like me for that. When you think of what if we did have baseball fields there and it was a great sports complex, does that financially help the village or anyone, or for that matter, what does that do to help contribute to paying the pot so our taxpayers don't pay more? Well, it really doesn't by having baseball fields there. Now, on the other flip side, it's a great service that hopefully may be offered, but that's not really on the table, and that's not really my decision. So ideally, I think, well, it's probably going to end up being developed because the neighborhood itself has developed aside from the school. It is part of some of the last really densely incorporated portion of Cary that's not developed. I don't want to see high-rises there. I don't think anyone does. I also don't want to see businesses come and go if there's some sort of commercial residential situation. I think that in my vision, I'd see a mix of higher-end townhomes, a mix of what we have. Pardon me for speaking out of term there, but I have a great idea, so I will. When we think of how do we draw people into Cary, because they're the ones who are going to, by creating demand, they're the ones who are going to increase the property values. Unfortunately, property values won't increase unless people want to be here. And that's a very difficult pill to swallow because it means planning ahead. And that's difficult to do with a tightened belt strap of your budget. And the younger generation of people who in the next 3 to 15 years that are buying these homes, not all of them are buying right now, a lot of them are renting. And they all have expectations that a lot of people in years past haven't had. And those are sometimes higher end apartments. The rental rate is a lot higher than it used to be since the recession. And for the people of that demographic, a lot of them don't buy. But I think a lot of different studies have found that those younger, I almost called them children, those kids that are renting there tend to stay fairly local as long as a job doesn't drive them out. So really establishing a mixed-use neighborhood of all high-caliber, high-quality, really starter entry-level residencies in Cary would be really, in my opinion, what would be best. Now, as someone who doesn't live just adjacent to that property, although I do live, within walking distance, I only foresee, in my humble real estate opinion, that those properties surrounding it would only do better. Now, no one wants to look at a big masonry concrete colored building that sits up 4 stories high. And ideally, if it was left up to me, I don't want to develop like that. I'd like to see beautification. I'd like to see townhomes, a community square in which that this is incorporated into the downtown and it's not its own isolated island. This wouldn't be the first municipal plan to have a luxury residence situation of condominiums, apartments, and townhomes seamlessly incorporated to a downtown venue in which there's almost no transition between the two, and it just becomes part of the downtown community and part of those already established single-family homes that is so very much part of Cary. I really wouldn't want, if it was entirely left up to me, to see someone place some apartments and some townhomes that feel completely like a spaceship just landed in the middle of Cary, because Soldier Field proved to us that looks absolutely asinine. And if I could find a way, if I'm personally building it, to weave it into the fabric of a very, very established neighborhood, that's what I'd do. If it was left up to me as a resident of Cary, I'd still reflect on that playbook that is the comprehensive plan. If I haven't said that enough, that is, I believe thousands of residents had input on that. A lot of money and time was invested in creating a vision, and I think through and through, as I've read it from cover to cover, It is pretty much aligns with a lot of my beliefs for the village, and it clearly aligns with many of the beliefs of those who put all the work into it, our residents. So to take some pages out of that, I would like to see it be an investment by the builder who is going to find a way to weave our community into this and to find a way to make a downtown that is vibrant, because without having a younger population and those who live here who may only want the condominium style or the attached dwelling with less maintenance to still be part of the downtown. We can't throw people who want to have a more modernized urban lifestyle. We can't throw them in Fox Trails or Foxwood Hills and expect them to get out the old ski shoes and the snowshoes and walk downtown in the winter. We're not laid out as such, and I don't think anyone wants to see that. And I don't think that economically any builders in their right mind is going to come do that either. So if it was left up to me, I'd reflect heavily on the comprehensive plan that the village had invested all that money in, and find a way to bring our community that is aging and our younger community that is coming into the community, and find a place where everyone can coexist.